So welcome back to the SWAU's official channel. I'm Brian, your host, and this is a conversation with the stars. And this week's star, you've seen him in Supernatural, Firefly Lane, so many other titles, and he could be currently seen in the Lifetime's movie, A Monster in the Family, the Stacey Kananen. Oh, I'm useless with names, Brendan. I'm useless. Kananen Story. It's a wonderful Brendan Taylor. Brendan, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks so much for having me. Hi, everyone.
Do you know, I'm sure there must be a condition for people that can't pronounce names, because there's got to be.
Yeah, they can be tricky. Yeah, I've dealt with it my whole life too. I get Brandon every time I have a theory though. I have a theory. If you maybe have like a more normal name, maybe you don't that just doesn't process sometimes. So because I get whereas like my name is I've had every vowel in the alphabet in my name in spellings and stuff when it's like so maybe.
Same here.
But yeah,
I've had Brian with an I. I've even had Brian where they've changed the I with the A, so it's brain. You know what? I've been called worse, Brendan. I've been called worse.
Yeah.
But you know what? Congratulations on A Monster in the Family. It's an absolute amazing film. I had the privilege of interviewing Caitlin Bernard from the other Lifetime movie, Surviving My Father, and I thought that after watching that, and I was an emotional wreck. After watching this film, Brendan, your character is literally disturbed. He really is. And you know what? I'm not going to feel bad saying that because in real life, he was. But before we delve into the film, I want to find out what got you into acting? What was that buzz? Because we are going to talk about, your previous work before you got mainly into acting. But what was it about acting that really got you excited?
Yeah, I mean, I started. I would, as a young child, I would play with my friends, and we'd play in the forest and pretend to be X-Men and pretend to be we'd make up our own characters, and it was just like how we played. And then this thing, as soon as I got to high school, there was an elective course that was like a drama course, and you get to do like acting like on TV. Oh, that sounds cool. Not really knowing much about it, and then it became like my easy A pretty early on, and just there was something that I obviously had some sort of ability with it, but also it just flowed naturally. It was like one of those natural things that you just drawn to, and then I just stay with it. And much like there's the stereotype of like the class clown as the actor, but that's like almost kind of less the case. It's usually like quieter kids. I was a really quiet, sort of shy kid, but something about acting with the shyness, it's not about like it's almost an indication of how much is there's so much observing going on with the world that it's like you like to do more is just too much stimulus almost. So it's I was really taking in the world, I learned, and then it just comes out in this sort of freedom that comes with not being yourself through sort of a character. It was just like that's where the confidence was almost found in someone else's life, in a fictional life.
And it's a wonderful idea, isn't it? That you can play other people, you can be other people and not worry about being judged because it's not you. There are so many actors out there that, you wouldn't guess. I mean, I grew up with a stutter, a stammer. And when in my younger years, I went into performing arts, into acting. And that was because of my stutter. And I actually found that when I was reading a script or singing a song, I didn't stutter. And there's so many actors out there that, like Eric Roberts, Bruce Willis, that all had stammers. And they've gone into acting to sort of, I don't know, not hide it, but just to be a bit more confident, which is great to see.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of that, of like stammers and stutters go away when you're because the focus is there. It's like the hyper focus of the character work and everything else. It's like I think the stammering might come. I don't. You obviously know more about that, but I think when you have like that confidence of what you're doing with like a character, it just like your subconscious isn't thinking things. You just kind of, you're just sort of locked into what you have to do. And then like, you're not aware that you're not stammering. You're just not stammering, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you grew up surrounded by your mum's work, if I'm right in saying, in the art department, which must have been magical. It must have been. How did being on sets shape you as a child in the way that you looked at filmmaking today?
Yeah, it was really cool. I was lucky to, I grew up with my mom. She worked on a lot of commercials, and I would hear, I'd be in bed at night and hear the sewing machine in the kitchen as she'd be making stuff for the sets the next day. And I mean, it was, and then I would get to go to set and help and be and a helping hand, and then see behind the curtain of how everything was done. And it was in the 90s that all these massive budget toy commercials is what she specifically worked on. And so you name it, the first Bratz dolls, Dora the Explorer, all the Barbies from that era, Power Wheels, Mattel, like any of those big brands, like she worked on, and I got this, before the era of CGI and everything, like everything was practical, and it was really cool to see. And yeah, I did have a a behind the scenes look, but when it came to acting, ironically, it felt, when it came time to sort of following that as a dream, it felt a bit more distant. Like it felt almost even further away, just because like, no, we're on this side of the camera, so whatever happens over there is just kind of further. It's hard to explain, but it didn't occur to me as it was something that I could actually do. Like as a thing, as a job. So
I mean, reading your story, I've got to say, it's very much like Harrison Ford-esque, because obviously he started his career working on sets, because I suppose the industry can be quite difficult to break into. And sometimes it's more about who you know and the connections and networking. You've got over 50 credits to your name as a set decorator, which is astonishing, and you've worked on some amazing shows. I mean, how has that helped you in that journey to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I appreciate that comparison. I mean, Harrison Ford, John Hamm is another one. He actually worked in set deck very briefly, but Harrison Ford, I think, did it longer. It definitely has helped. Like for me, well, first of all, when I do a commercial nowadays here in Vancouver, there's still people on set, that at least two people on almost every crew, that'll ask me how my mom's doing, that they worked with her like a long time ago, which is really cool. Like, and remember me when I visited set when I was a teenager. So it's kind of cool that it's come a full, I'm like a Nepo baby, but like for a different angle or something, but it was it definitely helped, like to the point that just spending hours and hours looking at actors and getting to watch them, because I was training at the time, but I would get to be invested in the story and everything, but also know how the whole film set comes together. Like it's second nature to me. Like I can point at anyone on a crew and be like, know exactly what their job is just by what they're wearing, and like it's but also the respect that's allowed. Like anyone, I don't feel like I need or deserve any kind of above and beyond treatment, because I've been in the shoes of every crew member. Like I've been in the trenches, so it's like I respect everyone's job and the time they need, and that they're people. Like I really take all that in, and I need what I need as an actor, but also I'm just a cog in the machine here. Like
I'm glad that you know what everyone does, because I still don't know to this day what a gaffer does and a best boy. But the question is, when is the memoir coming out, Brendan? When is the Confessions of a Set? When are all the secrets? Because I am sure that you've seen all sorts on set. I mean, you don't have to say anything now, but do you know what I mean? Would it make for a juicy book?
I definitely agree. There's so many stories, and if it's not my personal stories, it's adjacent. I just got to ask someone else, and there's been some. It is a wild industry. The amount of money that is out there to like make these things, and then where it gets diverted. Sometimes you're just like, wow, okay, like it's
You know what?
it's
Let's talk about Monster in the Family, because you have had quite a varied career in the way of your characters, and this is, an amazing character to get your teeth into. And this is Monster in the Family, which is out now from when people watch this interview on Lifetime. If you could tell us a bit about it in your own words, because I'm sure people can, like me, go onto Court TV and watch the real, because this is based on a true story, which is shocking. But if you could tell us a bit about the movie.
Yeah, it's I mean, briefly, it's about a family of an older brother and then his two sisters who, as children, were not just abused by their father, but terrorized, and to the point it was he took pleasure in terrorizing them. And Ricky, the older brother, was significantly about 10 years older than his siblings, so he got the brunt of it for a long time. And then at one point, the father disappears, and because he's so terrible, they sort of don't go looking for him or tell anyone that he's gone. And then the sort of life goes on, and Ricky comes back into the picture a bit later, and has the dream of sort of having his family together, but by means of also noticing that mom's still there, but she's got some there's some money, I guess, from an inheritance, and but on the surface he wants a real family again, but it's unclear as to sort of maybe what the actual motives are, and also the whereabouts of dad, and how that still is ongoing and affecting the entire family. And then hilarity ensues, I guess.
Lots of one-liners.
Yeah, exactly.
It's basically like Friends, but a bit more serious. But this film is shocking in so many places, and you know what? You've got to really check, on the internet to believe that it was a real story. And I think this is what Lifetime do very, very well is picking these incredible, like, sort of stories that you wouldn't believe otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, your character in this is obviously the brother, and he is quite menacing, not menacing at the beginning, but he's quite disturbed. I mean, how much research did you do to get into this character? Because he's a real person. So, I mean, did you meet him? Did you speak to him? I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't be up for an interview. I'm sure.
I mean, yeah. In all seriousness, it is a very serious story, and a very real story, and a very tragic story. Ultimately, I did not meet him. This is is based on the Stacey Kananen Story, so it's based on a book from her perspective. So Stacey, the real Stacey, was in touch with production, about how it was coming from her perspective. So based on what happens in the movie, it wouldn't make too much sense for me to talk to the brother who is still in prison, and seeing as it's sort of how it all transpires. So, but like you're saying, that the Court TV has, I mean, you can almost watch an extended version of this movie by following all of the court proceedings of everyone involved. That was a gift of a resource, to be able to access all of that. And it was these movies, I think, I mean, maybe I can speak for ours, but it's less about trying to nail the appearance or the of these real people in these movies, and more about the essence of what's happening in the story. I mean, you get some physical traits, like I part of, I think, why I got it as maybe my physical size. I'm 6'5". I'm not a small person, and Ricky is noted many times as being a significantly larger person than others, which adds to the looming sort of threatening person. But then, like, is he? Because he's not bad, etc. Yeah, but looking into the information that's there, but just really trying to understand as much history as possible, because the more specific you get and the more information you get, and especially someone like a real life like this. I mean, they're not a public persona, but you know, there's information out there, is really trying to get the perspective and trying to source of where this all started, and then you just start to see, like, yeah, he is menacing, he's evil, but you know, the trap is to play evil. I mean, you never play evil. You play the truth of the person, and it's up to everyone else to decide that it's evil. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it must be quite difficult, because knowing that you can see lots of videos of Richard, who is a real person, you know, on Court TV and other outlets, it must be difficult as a performer, knowing that you're taking that role on, to not mimic him as such. I mean, you know, how much of, you know, Ricky in the real life did you put into the character, and how much did you develop yourself to see what we see, well, you know, for what we see on screen?
It was really more the way that he answered questions. He was very matter of fact about everything. He's like, in order for what happens in the film, he has to be very intelligent. And just because he went through this awful past, it does not mean, and maybe he's, you know, not educated, but like the street smarts and the intelligence and the way that the manipulation all happens. I mean, that takes a charisma and an intelligence to even happen. So it's more, yeah, it's the way he sort of confidently can go about answering questions and doing what he's doing, and his own justification of it, or explanation. I mean, it's a justification in his mind, but it's an explanation for us, because it's, you know, the awful things that happen in the film are, you know, in any moral sense not justified, but they are very much explained.
I mean, he's honestly a scary individual. You know, the bit that I saw of the real courtroom was when the lawyer asked, "Have you got a hearing problem?" And he said, "Pardon?" And then when she asked him again, he had a smile on his face, like as if he was making a joke.
That's a really great observation, because I actually know something about that. So part of the terrorizing that I'm talking about, and he tells a story. There's a scene in the movie where about Christmas time that I'll let you see. You would remember, but when they're talking about Santa on the roof, if you recall,
yeah,
about what Dad made him do. There's this somewhere in there the explanation of he's deaf in one ear, because when he was 6 years old, his dad came up to him with a double-barreled shotgun while he was asleep and shot it next to his head, just to wake him up, because it was funny or got a rise or whatever. Like, how do you even explain that? And so he was deaf, you know, obviously from a young age, but it's like, but then people like that, it's like sometimes the evil part of using disabilities to your advantage to manipulate and things like that. It's like it's like how much of it is real and how much of it is you lean on it to gain empathy or sympathy from people. Like that's a real thing. It's controversial, but I think it's in the wrong hands or the wrong person. Like it's just a real thing in you know, some cases. So
I mean, with a role like this, it's so intense, and I know I ask this question to many of my guests that have such intense roles. How do you emotionally prepare yourself, because you've got to protect yourself to a certain extent to not take a bit of Ricky home with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just like our climax sort of scene in the garage with the truck, that was actually, it was thankfully shot because we shoot out a sequence, so sometimes you can have really intense stuff on the day one out of the gate, and it's 7 a.m. and you're bawling your eyes out, whatever. But this one was a bit later, but it was an intense scene for both of us, especially for Alicia, but for both of us, and we did it many different ways. I mean, many levels of intensity, and it's it. I'm able to distance myself because it really, thankfully, is not my life, but it's anyone can relate to the pain these people are going through, and it's so long as you're able to take on that and show that in the moment, like, you should just sort of feel drained after, just tired, but never. I think some things can get to you, but it's just a matter of, I have my own sort of process of staying in the zone as much as I can, but then staying in a state like, so you can be ready to go when they're shooting. But it's that in itself can be draining, but it's just easier to do that, I find, than going off to crafty and chatting with the people, and than just sort of staying in the zone. But we don't know the shooting schedule. We don't know how long it's going for. So it's, you just try to pace yourself as best as you can. But as shooting does go, it is disjointed. It's like there's so many indications that this around you that it is a production still, and you ground yourself with the people around, and the people that see that you're emotionally going through something as an actor, because that's our job, that's what we're doing. But people are there to care and help, and as you can. So it's grounding yourself with the people around you, for sure.
I mean, you mentioned a moment ago Alicia Cuthbert, which I've got to say I've always been a fan of hers since 24, because it's one of my favourite shows. I mean, what was that like collaborating with her on screen? Because you have so many great scenes together and so many intense. It must have been like an actor's workout. What was it like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know, first of all, how big the role was in the film before, when I got it. I didn't, from the perspective of her, like how much I was going to be in it. And I also didn't know who the actress was who they hired until I found out. So that was a very pleasant surprise. And I too familiar with her, and it's so great when you get to go toe to toe with someone who's just there for the work. They're there for the story. They don't have any ego around what they need to any appearance and stuff. Like, you really can't. It's really hard for me to imagine when actors do have an ego around that, because it's like, your whole job is to be vulnerable and serve the story. So when people have certain crazy demands, and to me, especially with my experience of being on set on the other side and stuff, and like really feeling like a cog in the machine of this whole production, like I just doesn't make sense to me when people actors have sort of weird demands and stuff. But yeah, I mean, she's so great. She's so professional. It's very, very obvious she's done this a lot, and in many different capacities. She's done, comedies. She's done, dramatic stuff, and her emotional availability. She's just right there. She's deep into it. She knows exactly where she is in the timeline of this, and really forced me to up my game and be there with her. So it's a true pleasure to have someone of that skill. It was really great.
Is there a particular scene that you're most proud of from, a performance aspect
from the film? I really liked the first truck driving scene when we leave the police station. That was done early on, and what made it cool, for one, is that they set the camera rigs up on the truck. So as opposed to like a film crew is all sitting around you, they just press record set it all up, press record, and then she's actually driving. And then sometimes it's on a dolly or a what do you call it, a trailer or whatever, like a car. But in this case, she was actually driving it. Yeah. So so it's just us in the truck having this conversation, and something about that felt even more real. Like we're both know what's happening, and we're both in this scene, in this world, and it felt even more real. And getting to do that scene over and over, I had some moments of discovery of like listening to her, and then a moment of betrayal that I guess I can't really, maybe give it away, but a moment of like not. It really was a pure acting sort of gem when these things, like realizations happen, where she wasn't on board with what I was doing, and I just assumed she would be for the good of the family, and then to learn that she wasn't, it was just like, how could you not see it from my perspective, and the hurt and the pain, and then fine, if you're going to be like that, then I know what I got to do. Like, if you're not with me, you're against me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was a really cool scene, and we did it in so many ways. It's always interesting to see what they end up using in the edit.
Yeah, of course, because you could be given an amazing performance, and then they use one that you thought that you weren't that good in, or you could have done better in. So I suppose it's a different perspective from the editors.
It's hard not to nitpick that. Yeah, I mean, some actors don't like to watch anything they do, and like I don't really understand that, because I find I learn a lot from seeing what I do, and I'm trying not to judge too much. I try to be objective and be like, can I just picture this as a whole ensemble? Like, this person being me, do I believe that that's what I'm looking at? I feel like I'm able to do that a lot of the time, but I still notice, like, because knowing film back and forth, like in the edits of seeing, when they reverse around and I'm over the dirty, I can see my mouth, and that's not really matching with what I did. And and then it's like, no one else is noticing this stuff. And I'm just like, but I try to, focus on the performance and, as a whole. So, yeah.
I mean, performances in this film are just epic. They really are. But from your words, how would you say this film differs from everything else that's out there at the moment? Because we're drowned by content. And the wonderful thing about my job is I get to see wonderful things like Monsters in the Family. I know it's obviously not a wonderful subject, but it's great seeing this art being presented on screen. So what makes this different to everything else out there?
I think it's like it's a relatively simple story. It's something as opposed to Survived by My Father, which is also so mind-blowing about a fundamentalist Mormon cult and everything, and that's so interesting. But it's you have to. It's a lot of things that people might not be familiar with, but you learn as you go. And as this one, it's kind of like an everyday life situation, and very middle class, and to learn the consequences of abuse of that level, and where it can go, and the accountability of people, and how that shapes someone's life. And in this, it's that curiosity, I think, of the questioning of the morality of how, what one would do in the same situation, and how can you put yourself in that situation, and to sort of reveal what it does at the end of, like, why would she go along with this? Why would he go to that extent? It makes you think. I think it makes you think a lot.
I mean, it's shocking to think that people have lived lives like this, and it makes my life so rosy compared, and it's just, for what she went through. I just admire the resilience that she must have had. I mean, what do you hope that audiences take away from watching this film?
I think it's I think ultimately, more empathy and more compassion and understanding of the decisions. It's like it's just not as cut and dry when it comes to this kind of behavior and how like childhood trauma affects people. I think we're learning that more and more about that as a society. Um, in many ways, and neurodivergence and all these other things that sort of come up. It's like, how does that affect people? And to it's easy to sit back as an audience member to be like, oh, if I did that, I would obviously do this and that. It's like, well, try to think of how it would have happened like this if this is a true story, which it is. It's like some things don't make sense. Why wouldn't she do this? Why wouldn't she do that? It's as obvious. Isn't such and such obvious and this and that? And it's like, if this is how it played out, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And like try to put yourself in that situation, how bad it must have been for it to get this.
The way I look at it is like, when you're watching a football game, you're watching it from the cameras right up above. So you're thinking, why shouldn't they have passed? Why shouldn't they have done that? But when you're on that pitch amongst everyone else, it's completely different, which is shocking to think. It really, really is.
Yeah. And not only with that you can see everything, but also what you also don't see is the dynamics of the team, of the actual relationships of people. Like you can see that this player passes to that player and this and that, like logically, sure, but it's like, what are their relationships like? Why did that player hesitate slightly to pass? Maybe something happened, with them, or didn't trust that person, or wanted to go on their own. You know what I mean? Like that's what we don't know, and that's the detail I'm talking about, and you're talking about, I think.
So the film is out now to stream. By the time this interview gets out there, go and watch it. It's an absolute epic film. It's just fantastic. Brendan, I have got a few more questions for you before I bid farewell. And it's on a lighter note now, because when I was researching you, I had a geek moment, and I'm going to let my geek flag fly right now, and I'm going to show you something on screen. It's going to relate to what I'm going to talk about. Okay. So I'm a big Superman fan, to the point that my daughters are called Lois and Kara. And we've even got a cat called Clark. But I've got here, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these, but this is being hand signed by Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, and Kirk Allen. I'll bring it closer to the camera, so you can see. So this is one of my prized possessions. So this is being signed by the creators, and I know that you played a real life person in Monster in the Family, but the first ever real life person you ever portrayed on screen was Jerry Siegel, in a documentary series by Robert Kirkman, if I'm right in saying. I can't find it anywhere in the UK to watch, and I'm so frustrated because I really want to watch it. I've got a picture of you just here as Jerry Siegel on screen. There we go. Look at that. What was the series like, and what was that? Yeah, there you go. What was it like to film? And obviously, it's about the litigations around the creators getting what was owed to them, which unfortunately is still going on. With the new Superman film being released, they were trying to stop it from getting released in the UK and in Europe, and But what was it like filming and having that part?
Yeah, that was a really cool little part. It was this docu-series of sort of showing the progression through their lives. So part of what made it fun is we got to age up over time. It was like when we first met and started and drawing, and then up through life, and then getting married, and then the the downfall, and then later it's the sort of it ends with us as old men in theater seeing our names finally come up on the 1970s Christopher Reeve Superman, as created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. So having that sort of long progression, doing a whole story like that is always fun, because you don't always get to do that, like a whole lifetime of someone's life. Also, my friend Blaine played Joe, who is a good buddy of mine, so we just had a blast doing that. But yeah, doing such an epic story that I learned about. I didn't know about the litigation part and everything, about the sort of unfairness around the credit that was due to these guys for creating, one of the most famous characters in any kind of human culture history. Yeah, I mean, the Superman shield is like, after like the McDonald's arches and like a couple others, is like one of the most recognizable things. It was really cool to sort of have some great to go through that life and experience that, the hardship and the unfairness of having that stripped away and not acknowledged, and the frustration that it led to them, and where they got to, and or the life they didn't have that they should have had, and trying to crawl back from it. So it's
I will try and see it somehow. I might even try and contact Robert Kirkman himself and say, right, where is it? I want to see it. Because I love anything around, the stories like George Reeves and stuff around him, which is just incredible, the whole sort of length of stories that are coming out of Superman and the creators and the actors.
It was intercut with interviews from people in that sort of circle who can speak on that story. So Kevin Smith was one of those. So he knows quite a lot about that. So he was one of the main interviewees for that. So it's definitely an interesting story if you can find it. I might have it somewhere. Maybe I can. Forward
yes. And then after your IMDb is incredible. You've been in so many great shows, had so many great roles that's gone from comedic to serious. Excuse me. Excuse me. Have you got a favorite to date that you're so proud of, that will always stay with you?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some fun ones that were just some of the smaller roles on bigger show. Well, Supernatural was a great one because of the whole fandom around that show. Oh, there we go. There's the boys.
I'm prepared. Look at that.
Look at that. You're prepared. They're so thrilled. Look at that. Just Doug's just loving it.
They look so young there as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this was 2011, maybe. It was a while ago.
Wow.
That was a really, really fun role, because those guys talk about professionals. I mean, that was back when they're doing 22, 24 episode seasons times 15 seasons. And the show is basically about two guys talking with like some guest stars in between, like the volume of stuff. So they're just so good at what they do, and they're so funny off camera, and we really all got along really well. And then Brianna Buckmaster, who was my co-star, who while I was there, I played her boyfriend as Sheriff Donna. And I got to attend one of the conventions here in Vancouver, which was also really cool, because like Supernatural, it's like there's like the Comic Cons and things that are kind of everything, but Supernatural is its own thing, and it's still going and still very popular around the world, and they have conventions all the time. And Vancouver's where the show's shot, so there's a lot of it's a lot of people make the Mecca trip to Vancouver for these conventions and get to be on stage, because they have their own band, and they play, they do karaoke and music, and I got to be up on stage. And I think it was the year that Prince passed, and a bunch of the cast were all up on stage singing Purple Rain, and with like an audience with the their phone lights and stuff. And I had like just a glimpse of what it would be like to be like a rock star. And I looked down the guy who's doing the Prince solo, and he's right next to me, and I'm watching. I was just overwhelmed with how cool this all was. That was really cool for sure.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you've done so much, but have you got a plan in place in what you want to do next? I mean, have you got any aspirations on who you want to work with or what type of genre you want to get into next?
Well, I'm here in Vancouver currently doing a commercial, and then I go to Toronto next week to do another one. Commercials is what keeps me busy a lot as well, and they're really fun because a lot of the time they're comedic, and I like to bring that to those. But in terms of like,
I saw on your social media that you were with John Cena of all people.
Yeah. We did a commercial with John Cena for Neutrogena. Yeah, he lent "You Can't See Me" to Neutrogena. Oh, well, he didn't lend it to them.
No, I'm sure he didn't. No.
Yeah. But he was super cool. He was a funny talk about. I mean, if you think about him, like his whole career is improv, improving on stage. And in wrestling they have an outline, and then the ones who are good at it rise to the top, and that's good. So he did that on the day for sure, and I'd love to see the bloopers of that. That was a good time. But in terms of roles in the future, I mean, I've always been drawn to like quirky, like sort of dark humor stuff in the Tarantino world, to the Paul Thomas Anderson, the Coen brothers, that kind of world that's dramatic and tragic, but funny in how tragic it is, and that kind of thing. Like I just saw one battle after the other at the Vista Theater in LA on Vista Vision, which was really cool, and a fantastic film. But some like Leo's performance in that, I love those sort of hilarious tragic roles. Those are really, really fun to play, and something in that world. Any of those, Wes Anderson, even same kind of thing. Like
I'm really looking forward to Spaceballs 2. That's filming now, and Rick Moranis is back, which obviously hasn't been acting for a while, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so Spaceballs is actually one of my favorite films of all time. That's probably what got me in. It probably developed part of my brain in the comedy aspect. Mel Brooks' old stuff, but that movie in particular, I think I watched it more than Star Wars, to be honest. Like as a kid, it's like ILM still did it, and it's like so good looking. But I just was more drawn to it, and a full circle moment came actually when I had a small role in another Lifetime type film as a gas station attendant with Daphne Zuniga, who plays Princess Vespa.
Yeah,
and also in the set that this gas station that's like east of the city here was also one of my first days on set in set decoration. So I remember that location. Then we pulled up that day to shoot this scene, and I was like, oh my God, I've been here before. But I'm also doing a scene, but I'm doing it with Princess Vespa, and getting to talk to her about that movie that was so formal. And then she told me some, telling tales of John Candy on set and stuff like that. It was just like, this is incredible. Like
that must have been incredible. I haven't seen. You get the documentary out yet? I don't think it is it? The I Am John Candy. I think there's a documentary coming out, but I haven't
coming
seen
out.
it.
Yeah, I would love. It's he's very beloved here in Canada. John Candy, and that was something like that too. I mean, I'm just impressed that Mel Brooks is still making movies at 94 years old. I think he is now, and
I know.
Keep him protected.
Exactly. Whatever he's taking, keep taking it. But Brendan, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I absolutely love the film. Your performance was phenomenal, and I'm glad to say that you're nothing like your on-screen character, which is nice because you're very nice. And I want everyone to watch the film. I will put the links and everything on the description on this video, and I look forward to chatting with you in the future for all the amazing things that I'm sure that you'll be doing very soon.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, it was a pleasure. It was fun talking to you.